So Donald Trump has issued a rare rebuke to the Russian President, Vladimir Putin, after that Russian drone and missile attack on Kyiv, which killed 12 people and injured more than 90. In a social media post, the US President said he was not happy with the attack, saying it was very bad timing and telling the Russian leader, Vladimir, stop. Well, it came a day after Mr. Trump accused Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky of being an obstacle to peace. Washington has been threatening to walk away from efforts to secure peace in Ukraine if there is no progress towards a deal. And speaking alongside the visiting Norwegian Prime Minister in the Oval Office, Mr. Trump was asked what pressure he is putting on Russia to agree to a deal.
Putting a lot of pressure. You don't know what pressure I'm putting on Russia. They're dealing. You have no idea what pressure I'm putting on Russia. We're putting a lot of pressure.
Can you maybe tell us that?
We're putting a lot of pressure on Russia. And Russia knows that, and some people that are close to it know, or he wouldn't be talking right now. The Prime Minister understands that better than anybody. He wouldn't be talking right now. He's talking, and we're putting a lot of pressure. I think he wants to make a deal. We're going to find out very soon, but it takes two to tango. And you have to have Ukraine want to make a deal too. And they're being hit very hard, and I do believe they want to make a deal.
Well, as for Ukraine's President Zelensky, he cut short a visit to South Africa because of that overnight attack, which he described as undoubtedly one of the most difficult. A block of flats not far from the centre of Kyiv was flattened by a ballistic missile in the overnight bombardment. Some people are reported to be still trapped under the rubble many hours later. From Kyiv, John Donison reports.
If peace is just around the corner, it doesn't feel like it. Ukrainian anti-aircraft fire tried to repel the most lethal Russian attack on the capital Kyiv in months. Rescuers worked through the night to try and recover the dead and injured. In the light of day, the damage. A residential block flattened.
I was really scared already, but when I got out of the building and saw that the house next door was completely destroyed, probably scared is the wrong word. I believe I sent the souls of all the people who died there.
Others may have been lucky to get out with their lives, but are now homeless.
This is thought to have been the deadliest Russian attack on the capital Kyiv since last July, and it comes at a point when the United States is really ramping up pressure to try and get a ceasefire deal.
In Ukraine, though, many say President Trump is not an honest broker.
President Trump should get lost. I want to live in my own apartment with my daughter. After work, I want to have a walk or go to the lake. So please let me do that in my own country with my loved ones.
So what is the American peace plan? According to leaks, it would see Russia keep territory it now occupies in eastern Ukraine. The US would in effect accept these as Russian. Moscow would also give up its ambition to control the rest of these four regions. But that's land it has failed to secure militarily. In return, America would recognize Russian sovereignty over Crimea, which it illegally seized in 2014. But speaking on a visit to South Africa today, Ukraine's leader rejected that, saying territorial integrity was key to the country's survival. But it's Ukraine that is feeling the heat. President Trump is impatient to get a deal, but neither side seem ready to make the compromises needed to get one. John Donison, BBC News, in Kyiv.
Well, let's return to those latest comments on the war in Ukraine from President Trump in the Oval Office, saying that he won't be happy if Vladimir Putin continues to bomb Ukraine, insisting that he is putting a lot of pressure on Russia. Let's go to our chief North America correspondent, Gary O'Donoghue, who's in Washington. And Gary, Donald Trump's been frequently criticised for not being critical enough of Mr. Putin, for not putting pressure on him. But he is insisting he's putting lots of pressure on him, but not really giving us any detail of what kind of pressure.
No, absolutely avoiding telling us what kind of pressure he's putting on Vladimir Putin, but seemingly with this 7-point plan offering Vladimir Putin quite a lot in terms of the deal. In other words, freezing the front lines where they are, effectively recognising the annexation of Crimea that happened back in 2014, something he blames on President Obama. He gave it away, was his phrase about Crimea, and also really sort of allowing Russia to keep its territorial gains in large part, apart from perhaps some areas in Kherson. But the difficulty, I think, here is that there are a number of unanswered questions. Would even with all that, would Russia accept giving up the Zaporizhia nuclear plant, which it controls at the moment? It's quite keen on holding onto that. Would it accept the idea of Ukraine joining the EU, which is one of the parts of this plan, we're told? And of course, for Ukraine, a number of red lines get crossed in this deal. So the idea that this deal is close is what he put it, that within a week or two, that does seem optimistic, I think, is probably the best spin you could put on it at this stage in time.
Yeah. All right, Gary. Thank you very much indeed. Gary Donahue there for us in Washington.